Hello and welcome back to my channel. As the COVID-19 is soaring day by day, I bring this video to share you pandemic history in human civilization. As the human civilization rose, these diseases, they stuck them down. Till today, we understand completely that pandemic is the worst case scenario. Communicable diseases, they exist during humankind's hunter-gatherer days, but shift to the agrarian life 10,000 years ago created communities that made epidemic more possible. Malaria, TB, leprosy, influenza, smallpox, and others, they first appeared during this period. Here I share a timeline that changed the history. So starting with the 430 BC, Athens time. It is suspected to be the typhoid fever as it includes fever, thirst, bloody throat, red skin, and lesions. It happened in the Peloponnesian War between the Spartans and the Athens, and it became the major reason of defeats of Athens. It killed two-thirds of the population. 165 AD, Anthonian plague. It's a variant of smallpox. It includes fever, sore throat, diarrhea, and if patient live long, pus-filled sore develops. It brings with the Huns, who transfer it to the Romans, and returning troop spread it to the whole Roman Empire. 250 AD, the Siberian plague. It includes diarrhea, vomiting, throat ulcers, fever, and gangrenous hands and feet. It started in Ethiopia, passed to northern Africa, Rome, and then to the Egypt and northward. 541 AD, Justinian plague. It first appears in Egypt. The Justinian plague it spreads through the Palestine and the Byzantine Empire and then throughout the Mediterranean. The recurrence over the next 2 centuries, it eventually killed about 50 million people, 26% of the world population. It is believed to be the first significant appearance of the bubonic plague, which includes enlarged lymphatic glands and is carried by the rats and the spread of the fleas. Then the 11th century leprosy. Though it had been around for ages, leprosy grew into a pandemic in Europe in the Middle Ages, resulting in the building of numerous leprosy-focused hospitals to accommodate the vast number of the victims. A slow-developing bacterial disease that causes sores and deformities, leprosy was believed to be the punishment from the god that reigned in families. The belief led to the moral judgment and the ostracization of the victims. Now known as the Hansen's disease, it still afflicts tens of the thousands of people a year and can be fatal if not treated with antibiotics. Then 1350, the Black Death. Responsible for the death of 1/3 of the world population, the second largest outbreak of the bubonic plague, it possibly started in Asia and moved west in the caravans, entering to the Sicily in 1347 AD when the plague they suffered a riot in the port of the Messina. It spread throughout Europe rapidly. Dead bodies they became so prevalent that many remained rotting on the ground and created a constant stench in cities. 1492, the Columbian Exchange. Following the arrival of the Spanish in the Caribbean, diseases such as smallpox, measles, and bubonic plague, they were passed along the native population by the Europeans. With no previous exposure, these diseases devastated indigenous people, with as many as 90% dying throughout the North and South continents. Research in 2019, it even concluded that the death of some 56 million Native Americans in the 16th and 17th centuries largely through diseases. They may have altered Earth climates as the vegetation growth on the previously tilled land drew more carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and caused a cooling event. 1665, the Great Plague of London. In another devastating appearance, the bubonic plague led to the death of 20% of London's population. As human death tolls mounted and massive graves appeared, hundreds of thousands of cats and dogs were slaughtered as the possible cause, and the disease spread through the ports along the Thames. The worst of the outbreak they tapered off in the fall of 1666, around the same time as another destruction event, the Great Fire of London. 1817, first cholera pandemic. The first of 7 cholera pandemics over the next 150 years. This wave of the small intestine infection originates in Russia, where 1 million people they died. Spreading to the feces, infected water and food, the bacterium was passed along to the British soldier who brought it to India, where millions more died. The reach of the British Empire and its navy spread cholera to Spain, Africa, Indonesia, China, Japan, Italy, Germany, and America, where it killed 150,000 people. A vaccine was created in 1885, but pandemics continued. 1855, the third plague pandemic. Starting in China and moving to India and Hong Kong, the bubonic plague claimed 15 million victims. Initially spread by fleas during a mining bomb in Yunnan, the plague is considered a factor in the Party Rebellion and the Taiping Rebellion. India faced the most substantial casualties, and the epidemic was used as an excuse for repressive policies that sparked some revolt against the British. The pandemic was considered active until 1960, where cases dropped below a couple hundred. 1875, Fiji measles pandemic. After Fiji ceded to the British Empire, a royal party visited Australia as a gift from the Queen Victoria. Arriving during a measles outbreak, the royal party brought the disease back to their island, and it was spread further by the tribal heads and the police who met. Spreading quickly, the island was littered with the corpses that were scavenged by the wild animals. An entire village died and were burned down, sometimes with the sick trapped inside the fire. 1/3 of Fiji's population, a total of 40,000 people, died. 1889, Russian flu. The first significant flu pandemic started in Siberia and Kazakhstan, traveled to the Moscow and made its way into the Finland and then Poland, where it moved into the rest of Europe. By the following year, it has crossed the ocean in the North America and Africa. By the end of 1890, 360,000 had died. 1918, Spanish flu. The avian-borne flu that resulted in 50 million deaths worldwide. The 1918 flu was first observed in Europe, the United States, and part of Asia before swiftly spreading around the world. At the time, there was no effective drug or vaccine to kill this killer flu strain. Wire service reported of a flu outbreak in Madrid in the spring of 1918 led to the pandemic being called the Spanish flu. By October, hundreds of thousands of Americans died and body storage scarcity hit crisis level. But the flu threat disappeared in the summer 1919, when most of the infected had either developed immunities or died. 1957, Asian flu, starting in Hong Kong and spreading throughout China and then into United States. The Asian flu became widespread in England, where over 6 months, 14,000 people died. A second wave followed in early 1958, causing an estimated total of 1.1 million deaths globally. 1981 HIV/AIDS. First identified in 1981, AIDS destroyed a person's immune system, resulting in eventual death by disease that the body would usually fight off. Those infected by HIV virus encountered fever, headache, and enlarged lymph nodes upon infection. When symptoms subside, carriers they become highly infectious through blood and genital fluid, and the disease destroyed the T cells. AIDS was first observed in American gay communities, but it is believed to have developed from the chimpanzee virus from the West Africa in 1920s. The disease, which spreads through the certain body fluids, they moved to the Haiti in 1960s, and then New York and San Francisco in 1970s. Treatments they have been developed to slow the progress of the disease, but 35 million people worldwide they have died of AIDS since its discovery. 2003 SARS, first identified in 2003 after several months of cases. Severe acute respiratory syndrome is believed to have possibly started with bats, spreads to cats, and then to humans in China, followed by 26 other countries, infecting 8,096 people with 774 deaths. SARS is characterized by the respiratory problem, dry cough, fever, head and body aches, and is spread through the respiratory droplets from the cough and sneezes. Quarantine efforts they proved effective, and by July the virus was contained and hasn't reappeared since. China was criticized for trying to suppress information about the virus at the beginning of the outbreak. 2019 COVID-19. On March 11, 2020, the WHO announced that the COVID-19 virus was officially a pandemic after barreling through 114 countries in 3 months and infecting over 118,000 people, and spread wasn't anywhere near finished. COVID-19 is caused by a novel coronavirus, a new coronavirus strain that has not been previously found in people. Symptoms include respiratory problem, fever and cough, and can lead to pneumonia and death. Like SARS, it spread through droplets from sneezes. The first reported case in China appeared November 17, 2019, in the Hubei province, but went unrecognized. 8 more cases appeared in December, with researchers pointing to an unknown virus. Many learned about COVID-19 where ophthalmologist Dr. Li Weiling defied government orders and released safety information to other doctors. The following day, the China informed WHO and charged Li with the crime. Li died from the COVID-19 just over a month later. Without a vaccine available, the virus spreads beyond Chinese border, and by mid-March, it had spread globally to more than 163 countries. On Feb 11, the infection was officially christened COVID-19. That's all for today, folks. See you in the next video.